Take it away, sir.
All right, thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys doing? Very good. So hopefully this is going to be exciting and actually eye-opening, to try to improve your day-to-day activities and how I can actually make your lives so much easier. It's a topic that I'm extremely excited about. Some of you that may know me, I'm extremely passionate about what I do. So let me tell you just a little bit about myself. Right now, my title is Senior Business Development Manager out of NEC Corporation of America. I've actually managed with NEC for about 17 years, a wide variety of products. I've seen a lot of technologies, brought to the market by NEC. A lot of times when I see something that's really big, just like the topic I'm going to talk to you about, you'll see my passion come out. So bear with me. I want to make this an open session. Please ask questions. This is more for you than it is for me, but I also want to hear your questions, and perhaps if there's a way to actually improve the solution as we are actually bringing it to the market, I certainly want to hear from you. If I obviously don't have enough time up here, I'm certainly going to be in the booth. I welcome for you to come by and take a look at it. Now, talking away from work, I have many other hobbies. One of my hobbies, and I'm a big fanatic about it, I'm a soccer player. Not a professional level, even though some people feel I should have been. So I'm also known on the field as Sammy. A lot of people call me Sammy. The guy right up there, I know it's kind of blurry, and I'm a big fan of Manchester United. Does anybody know who Manchester United is? There you go. I'm a big fan of them, so that's one of the things that I do. My wife, a lot of times, is not too happy about me spending too much time watching them and following them. So here's the way we're going to do this. I want this to be very interactive. So we're going to ask questions. And as somebody answers, and a lot of times I'm going to give some hints about the questions. If you answer, you're going to get a gift. And then you have Jennifer here and Denise here. They're going to throw some shirts at you. So first question. I'm a fan of which soccer club? Shout it out. There you go. I think we have a few here that we're going to have to throw away. You can, but yeah, I think if many of them answer, that's fine. We have plenty of shirts. So that's the way I want it to go. Now, so I know the theme of this is basically Ryo versus John Taylor, Black Ops Commander number 3. Is this even a fair fight? Not even close. Who would you rather be as you're addressing your IT infrastructure problems? Anybody wants to be a Ryo? Black Ops John Taylor Commander? Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. Here's the funny part. NEC was one of the people that actually developed the game that you're seeing in front of you, the Fighting Street, or the Street Fighter Ryo. And we actually have it in the booth showing that game. But as technologies evolve, we now have the tools to make you as John Taylor from an IT perspective. So that's the theme I want to use. How can I alleviate a lot of the problems that you have in your infrastructure? So I am here to really empower you and empower your data center to work smarter, more efficient, so you guys can actually have better sleep at nights. Okay. Are we ready? So from here, I think a lot of you guys, as you look at this may not come as a surprise. IT and IT staff is certainly overworked. There's a lot of stress that comes with your jobs. A lot of you guys probably have existing maintenance costs that keep going up. Is that a fair statement? Absolutely. What about over-provisioning and overbuild? A lot of you guys probably over-provision and overbuild. Why? Because you're anticipating future needs. You're anticipating that your CEO or the CIO is going to walk into your office and say, oh, by the way, we're going to have to do this now. And I know we don't have the budget for it, but you're going to have to figure out a way to do it. Are you losing sleep because of that? I'm sure you are. So this is the situation. What about increasing energy cost? A lot of times you see hardware that's basically running more efficient. That's great. But you keep adding more hardware to it. You keep doing things the same way you've been doing it for a long time. And things are not getting any better. Things are getting more and more complex. For those of you that manage networks end to end, you're seeing over time, as more applications ride on those networks, how complex the network is becoming. And then you come up with things like, well, we're going to have to change our business model a little bit, and then we're going to have to move in this direction, which means now we're going to have to run things off the cloud. I need to be able to offer new services. The CEO, the CIO comes to you and says, this is the direction of the company. While we continue to maintain the current business model, we need to have a new business model, which means the infrastructure has to be able to adapt. How are you going to be able to do that? We talked in the past, and you guys are very familiar with this, when your users, which essentially are your customers, have maybe a single or two devices on their desktops. With BYOD, bring your own device. Pretty much 3 or 4 devices is what you have to manage nowadays. And that's actually even expanding as we get into more IoT stuff. So will you continue to do more with less? Is that the case? Yes, yes, I see a lot of people shaking their heads. So we also live in an environment where you have a heightened security environment. So issues that come up on the network a lot of times impact you heavily. A worm or a virus that spreads across the network, across multiple campuses, multiple offices, all of a sudden you're running around trying to figure out what happened while you're also containing the problem. It's not probably a model you like to work in day in and day out. And as you throw more devices on the network, what do you think is going to happen? Those issues are going to even become bigger. So network security, trade secrets, you want to do all this, but also while protecting the intellectual property of your organizations. And then also I talked about the business agility. When CIO again comes in and says, we need to be flexible. We need to have an infrastructure that's actually flexible. So with the projections that you will see in front of you, this is not going to get any better. It's going to even be more complex. You're going from millions of devices on networks to billions today to trillions in 2020. Can you continue to do the same things you've been doing day in and day out? No end in sight, no extra budgets, no extra skillful or labor? Absolutely not. This is not going to work. So what do you need, and what do organizations look for in a new infrastructure? They certainly need to have the ability to deploy services and applications faster. A lot of times, the network, or so to speak, the rail for the train, delays the actual application. So if you're trying to run an application, but the network's not ready, you cannot do it. So that delays it. So you need something that allows you for faster deployment. You need an environment that can easily adjust and adapt to new business needs. While at the same time, you need to have a methodology for better success factors. A success factor is not simply, I can ping from A to B. Unless you tell me that's enough, right? It's not enough. You want to be able to run applications correctly and efficiently and properly on your networks. And that's a critical success factor, which means work around congestions, work around delays in the network. If you have a mission-critical application or a real-time sensitive application, how are you going to work around that? So here's what I want to introduce SDN. If you haven't talked about SDN or haven't heard about SDN, this is your introduction to SDN. But why is SDN so good that a lot of carriers have already started deploying it, and now it's making inroads into enterprise and mid-market? Why is it so appealing to a lot of those carriers? Because it addresses all those issues that you saw in front of you. And if you haven't looked at SDN, please start looking at it. It's going to make your life so much easier. You're going to be able to sleep at night. You're going to be able to adapt to your CIO's needs and CEO's needs. And you're going to look like a hero, a superhero, a John Taylor. So what is SDN? So before I tell you exactly what SDN is, let me tell you what NEC has done with SDN. Back in the mid to late 2000s, NEC co-founded a project out of Stanford University called Clean Slate. And Clean Slate is not a mistake. It's not a name that we used as part of a mistake. It was actually intentionally given that name. Part of the reason was we did not want to inherit any problems or any existing inherent problems with legacy network environments. So we started from the ground up architecturally with a new clean slate. What SDN does, and we actually built the foundation with SDN for the open flow protocol, which is truly the foundation for SDN technology, which is a standard out there today. What SDN in essence does, which is different than legacy environment, and I'm going to give you maybe a quick review here. In a legacy environment, each device has its own control and forwarding function. So when you have a network, you have a lot of devices that have their own control and forwarding functions. And you try to configure that device, that device, that device, that device, while you trying to have a picture in your mind that says, I think the flow of the packets is going to go this way in the network. That's where sometimes you can get in trouble. Because if you miss one device, or if one device is doing one thing while you're expecting something else, that's where the problems happen. SDN changes that from the ground up. Architecturally, it's completely different because it decouples control from forwarding functions. Let the switches and routers do what they do best, which is forwarding packets, while the control is actually given at a higher layer, at a software layer, that now can look at the network end to end. So you're no longer looking at a specific device at one time. The network and the SDN is looking at the complete network while making the decisions for the devices, because it has a full view, full topology, physical and logical view of the network. Very critical difference. There are many benefits to SDN. One of the key benefits of SDN is what I highlighted in green. Because now the foundation that SDN was built on is really how to attain to the needs of applications, which is critical. In legacy environments, applications do not talk to networks, infrastructure. The application does not go tell the switch or the router, hey, I want XYZ for my application to run properly. With SDN, you could do that. So if, let's say, you're making a phone call, or you're making a VIP call, or you're making whatever communication or whatever application session, with SDN, now you have the ability for the application to sort of talk to the network and say, I expect this much bandwidth, I expect, I'm a little bit tolerant to congestion and delay, but with those thresholds, I expect end-to-end and not be able to cross so many hops, and then let the network decide, okay, you're going to go this route versus the other route. A good analogy that somebody gave me, Google Maps. We all know how to use Google Maps. When you go from A to B, Google Maps says, oh, there's a congestion here, there's an accident there, I'm going to route you this way. Today, that does not happen in networks. SDN gives you that ability. Okay? So, what can you do as far as additional improvements from SDN? I talked about a few. This should come no surprise. One thing to notice, most efficiencies in the 30+%. But the biggest benefit is really in provisioning. 72%. Accelerated application deployment. An example would be UC, or maybe some other applications that you guys have or have to maintain and manage. Let's have another question. Are you guys ready? Who remembers the name of the project that NEC co-founded? I got a few people that said it over here and over here. There you go. That's very good. So, if we take UC as an example, what are some of the benefits that UC can benefit from? And those are things that NEC is actually working on integrating and actually making those applications talk to the network from an SDN perspective. Think of provisioning. If, let's say, you have a phone system that you're deploying, a voice over IP phone system, it would be nice if the UC system said, here's how I expect my network to look, automatically, told it to the network controller, and the network controller pushes policies down to all the switches. Instead of you touching every single switch and programming QoS, programming routing, and all that. That could be done with SDN. Imagine a scenario where you have a failover situation. One server failed, where all the traffic is failing over to another site. You probably need to reprogram the routers and the connectivity between the sites to accept more bandwidth. That could be done dynamically with SDN. Today, you cannot do that. You guys work extremely hard to bring that failed site back on because you don't want to worry about touching every network device. So those are some of the examples, in addition to orchestration and some of the other things that you could do with SDN. So here's another area that we're also expanding, and this is some of the things you'll start seeing. Imagine a scenario where you have a VIP walking into a property, or maybe a criminal, God forbid, walking into a school district. It would be nice for the network and the SDN in this case to adapt to that event or that trigger that took place and provide high quality of service to a camera that's trying to detect that person that's coming in, while the facial recognition engine trying to analyze that face and recognize who they are, while at the same time, if they recognize that they are a criminal, send notification via unified communication to a security personnel, to maybe the principal at the school, or to a police department, or whatever you decide it to be, okay? While also at the same time, locked rooms, locked doors. This is where you start seeing some of the IoT. Now you're starting to see a trend here. The network is no longer this static built infrastructure that you're used to. It's really dynamic. It can react. It can work with the applications. And those are some of the things that we are working on as NEC. We're bringing a lot of the core technologies that we have strengthened, you see, biometric, SDN, and the likes, and trying to bridge them together into SDN. SDN builds that foundation to allow us to do all this. Does that make sense? Very good. Here's one thing. So I keep talking about SDN. Technically, it's got a great benefit, but it also has a very huge monetary value. There's a lot of savings associated with SDN, CapEx or OpEx. OpEx in this case, if you look at a deployment, you can pretty much cut your deployment cost from 12 days to 1.5 days. And I did the quick math here. That's about 87.5% savings. That's 87% saving of your time that you can go dedicate somewhere else. You think that's significant enough? I haven't even talked about CapEx. So, what is one of the key benefits to SDN? Shout it out. Cost saving, that's one. What's another thing? One of the key benefits that I talked about. Time on demand. What else? How about applications? Deployment? Yeah? Okay, there you go. He gets one right here. I kind of helped him a little bit, but that's okay. He's got one, okay. Okay, you want to throw one in the air and see if maybe somebody grabs it? There you go. There you go. So who's actually, yes. Okay, so who's actually deploying it? I talked about the technology is here. We started developing it about, mid-2000s to late 2000s. 60% of organizations have plans to deploy it. 30%, or about close to 22%, already have it in deployment, in production. And about 30% within 12 months. The rest of them are already looking at it. If you haven't looked at it, you need to start looking at it. Another question. What type of savings can SDN offer over legacy networks? CapEx, OpEx? Both? I heard somebody say both. Right here. He wins. Oh, I thought he did too. Yeah. So, NEC's SDN brand is actually called Programmable Flow. There's a lot of benefits to it. First of all, it's standards-based. We offer multiple, value adds versus other competitive products out there. There's so many things to remember. One thing to remember is we actually helped build the foundation, so we were extremely active in bringing this technology to market. And we are truly the leader in that technology. Let's do one more question. Can SDN work with legacy networks? Yes or no? Anybody knows the answer? Shout it out. Yes, absolutely. So, gentleman here with the green. Yeah. So, we are really very proud and humble at NEC. We really, our vision is really to orchestrate a brighter world for you. Our smart initiative strategy that we have built that really makes us extremely unique because we have solutions in so many different areas that we're trying to bridge together to really give you the smart enterprise. And with that, I want you to go out and be IT superheroes, just like John Taylor. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Sam from NEC. That was our last Tech Talk session of the day.
Did I drop it?
Yep, but no problem. I see you have a selfie stick. What's that for, Sam?
Yeah, actually, I wanted if anybody